Greetings, guys. I wanted to read to you the concept of embedded law that I am preparing for the court so you can get an idea of exactly what I am trying to show the court and show a jury. And I would also like to get expert opinions on this because I am not an expert, but I can. Will you be the judge of what do you think about this? How embedded law changes at the root of racial disparity in America's society. 400-year racial foundational construct. This is how it happens. Embedded law is the primordial core root branch of inescapable active destruction force towards the daily life of the Black African Americans. It is one of the vital roots of perpetual, never-ending oppression woven within the numerous branches used and embedded into the very fabric of a web that ever tightens and metamorphoses chameleon-like from generation to generation, sealing permanent doom of forever cast into an extremely less than second-class citizen, held for all other minorities. Because all other minorities are second class, and then the blacks are trapped permanently at the bottom of the social ladder as a people in general, with a forever sinking deeper and deeper into the abyss of disenfranchisement. I can't say the word, disenfranchisement and inequality, like quicksand, liquefying very quickly. And the higher the stress, the more fluid it becomes, entrapping of our race at any attempt to move forward, to ultimately seek deeper with every attempt of movement upward, best known as critical race theory. Today, embedded law grants an unspoken right by law of privilege that anyone can harm Black people, hate them, think of them as less than, and perceived knowing in the mind of the individual, Karens, that there are no repercussions for any acts harming Blacks. For whites, even including murder. Note, this is the mindset, not written in stone always, actually outcome, as my defendant landlords will soon learn. So in other words, they don't always get that outcome, of course. But this is in their mind, and this is the reason why it's so, now I'm going off of explain, but this is why it is so powerfully just monstrous, where you see these Karens with what they're doing is because it's engraven in the mind and the psyche that, hey, this is acceptable and there is no repercussion for anything that I do against a Black. And of course, if you really look at the face of George Floyd's cop murderer, if you look at his face, when he's like, y'all want me to get my knee out of his neck? It doesn't matter if I kill him. He's nothing. He's an animal. Did you see the look when they're saying, look, he's not moving? Oh, well, it's my right. And this is what embedded law is all about, and that people do not talk about. And this is why racism never ends. Talking about how from generation to generation it metamorphoses into something worse and worse and worse, pretending that it's getting better. For example, civil rights, all of a sudden, African Americans now have a Black president and racism is over. It's worse now than ever. That's the reason why an unqualified Black American president, who is definitely not descendant of the slaves and a part of African American, but he is Black American, a descendant of a free African and a free white American. Okay? And how much experience did he have? And who all knew of him before then? And how did he just become president? They knew what they were doing. Okay, now back to explaining embedded law. So, through the originally written laws that literally stated that blacks were inferior to whites, though the originally written laws that literally stated that blacks were inferior to whites could not defend themselves physically against a white person, must step into the street for a white to walk by, could not go to court to defend themselves, could not marry whites, and thus destined to live as a permanent underclass forever against white counterparts. Blacks are the last hired, first fired, the most race imprisoned, longest prison sentences, most stressed, so they're dying first, racially profiled, most harassed and discriminated against by all persons, corporations, businesses, housing, on the prowl Karens, targets for murder by lynchings called suicides, vigilante white murderers for walking, running, living while black. We've seen people they get to kill black people for these reasons, and destined permanently at the bottom of the social ladder of wealth, income, education, longevity, infant mortality rate, physical, mental wealth, and well-being for centuries of inescapable oppression and suffering. Mexican, Chinese, Arab, Jewish, etc. can all return to their land if they are living oppressed or overly stressed. Where does the Black American go and have control over their lives to escape oppression, white oppression? Embedded law operates within all Americans, no matter the race, including blacks. Okay, stick with this. Embedded law operates within all Americans, no matter the race or nationality. All will either consciously or unconsciously use embedded law as a result of white supremacist national culture that set the above laws originally in writing that blacks are less than whites, and today woven into the very fabric of all people, lawmakers, judges, attorneys, politicians, blacks, whites, Chinese, Arabs, Hispanics, etc. Social experiment showing a black 5-year-old child to see black as the criminal, as the ugly one, as the one who starts trouble, and whites as the good one, the nice one, and the pretty one, as the one with the good hair. Just to give a general example, there is no exception to how blacks are the inherent targets in general for suffering solely for having dark skin. Blacks, too, be quiet! Blacks, too, use embedded law against other blacks, as shown in the experiment of the 5-year-old children. 5-year-olds children knows that black is not worth anything. Definitely worth less than a white. The American laws and general opinion, the American vaguely defines racism as a simple white prejudice against blacks. Thus setting in perpetual destruction by oblivious denial of extreme outer-lying numerous aspects ingrained and woven into the social construct of which the individual, the leaders, the powers that be of general society as a whole are utterly oblivious, seeing only a pea-sized view of the mountain of structural, historically embedded centuries of extreme damage and utter destruction of a race of people. See, this is why the judges turned against me, because I know, and especially if I can get the experts that can prove and give the numbers behind this. This is what I'm after, but I'm all by myself. I can't even get black people. Y'all gotta share, because it's just human nature. When it's not affecting you, why should we care? That's just life. So if you don't share, who's going to? Let me get back to explaining or reading this. There is absolutely no race ever on the face of the earth who has suffered such vast devastation for centuries with absolutely no end in sight. No race of people were kidnapped from the opposite ends of the earth, enslaved, oppressed, raped, murdered, stripped of their language, land, and culture, with nowhere on earth to escape the oppression or a genuine platform to voice their suffering. So just like now, nobody even knows that I have reparations on the table. Nobody is even sharing this to say that, hey, discrimination has to end, because we're going to make corporations that allow malicious employees to harm these black people. We're going to order special damages. And when the one thing that's a bigger influence than black is green. And when you hit that green money and you tap into that money and say that, hey, you're going to give special damages for harming these people, it's been long overdue. I promise you, a lot of the discrimination is going to end, because we love green more than we hate black. I promise you. This is serious. Let me finish. So, embedded law is a form of reparations for blacks only, the first ever in the history of the oppression of the black people. Without this action, the American Constitution that requires all blacks to be treated equally fails blacks due to their special condition that has been failed for centuries to make amends, restitute, set equal, and repair the damage. Thus, embedded law introduces to the court a remedy, reparations type damages payout. It's not reparations, but it's let me finish reading, I'm sorry. Thus, embedded law introduces to the court a remedy, reparations type damages payout, to offset a small portion of the destruction talking about the embedded law, causes to blacks. Not every black who is discriminated against will qualify for embedded law. Embedded law qualifies specifically for a black person discriminated against by any entity or person, black, white, any race, who shows a life and condition of living under embedded law. I'm going to go off here for a minute. The reason why I put that in there is because what I'm doing is showing that we are still abiding by everybody having equal rights. For example, if a black person is just discriminated against once, how is he different from a Hispanic person who just was discriminated against once? There's no difference. So what we're saying here is that to to qualify, like for example, my life, I have lived my entire life discriminated against, starting after I became a chemical engineer. Well, I was discriminated against all throughout, and was not even counting just regular people discrimination, because, that's just a part of life, but severe discrimination, like for example, I'm an engineer, not allowed to work as an engineer since I was 37. My mother was taken from me because I'm black, because I wasn't allowed to work, so therefore the courts could hold that against me, that I was this monster. But the same court that held that against me said that I could have my grandchildren. So I couldn't have my mom because I was going to destroy her life. I was going to beat her. I was stealing her money. But the children, oh, you're real qualified for them. The same judge. Okay, so it's just crazy. And so, and then just so many different things with, even while I'm just in court, just so many different things that I have had to go through that no human being should have to go through. These are examples of qualifying for embedded law, because living as a black person is time after time after time, and your life is just destroyed. And you know what? If I probably would have read it, I probably wrote it here too. I'm sorry. Thus, a black person who is discriminated against only once and cannot show multiple users or an extreme use of embedded law affecting the black person's life would not qualify for claiming embedded law. Example, a black person qualifies for maximum payout of embedded law. I, Sandra Black, was stripped of my career. I told you I wrote all of that, what I was saying. So I'll skip that. My family lived utterly destroyed. Two of my children became depressed, turned to drugs. This is a 24-year life sentence to poverty. And as such, it alone would qualify. There were 3 positions that all discriminated against me. Therefore, it is a repeat use of embedded law multiple times in my life. Thus, I would qualify solely for this extreme loss. However, no such claim as embedded law existed for me. So I also went through a judicial corruption court petition for guardianship of my mother, which left her abused and neglected, living in mostly solitary confinement, possibly raped. A rape kit was performed, and forced bedridden twice. The last time the doctor said that she was starved and without water and food for at least 5 days. She was found unresponsive and expected to die. Okay, so these are I want to hurry up and get through this. Finally, the defendants today in my lawsuit, with a history of seeking a way to evict black people, got the wrong black person having the court experience from my mother's case, defeated their attorney, and corporations maliciously fabricated violation for eviction. Though I won the case at the state level, on the exact same day to the hour, the court order denying the eviction was handed out to the defendants. They immediately handed me a bogus violation in retaliation. They used their inspection to give me bed bugs and used their maintenance guy to shut off AC in the dead of summer. It would be impossible to live under such conditions. And since I had to move, I negotiated time. Okay, so I'm explaining some of the case. I went into a lot of stuff that happened. Okay, we don't need to tell you all of this. All the suffering, no suffering. So this landed me now again by this court, federal court. Embedded law is used in federal court as I sue my malicious landlords for discrimination And Susan Collins, as a Karen, Susan Collins is a judge, acting magistrate, has used judicial powers from the 1960s style oppression against me in court. I believe that I have successfully stayed the court pending my complaint. Okay, so this was written before I had my complaint in Chicago, which in Chicago, what they do is it's an automatic, it's a rubber stamp, if you know what I mean, that the judge lied and said that, oh, she was just asking, let me go through the, I've mentioned before that it was my son and grandchildren that the judge lied about and said they were living in my house, not on the lease, which made white defendants right, black plaintiff wrong. Problem is, it's a lie. My son and grandchildren were both on the lease. Well, what happened was when I asked the court, because you know, after you learn being in court, the no matter how bad a judge makes a decision, you got to try to say things in a way that no matter what, you're kissing their ass. You got to kiss the judge's ass. It's just a rule. So instead of just coming out and saying, hey, you messed up, I explained to the judge, or I asked the judge to substantiate the order that shows that my son and my grandchildren weren't on the lease. Why did I do that? Because I know it couldn't be substantiated because they're on the lease, and there's a court order where the judge writes that my son and grandchildren are on the lease. So you've got two serious evidence, the lease and you got the court order. So how are you going to get away with saying that? So, but like I said, I motioned the court to substantiate the order. Also, the judge lied that the defendants hadn't been fully heard. They had been fully heard. She just didn't want to award me my summary judgment because she didn't want me to have leverage from the beginning, which is what would have happened if I ever had a fair chance. So what happened was the judge said my motion to substantiate the order is an objection to her order, and objection is denied. Motion to substantiate means explain how did you do that? What does that have to do with an objection? Okay, so but anyways, that's what she did. So then I come back with motion to correct the erroneous order. And I explain in details in the motion, the court has made an error. The court cannot stand on an error changing the facts of reality. The court cannot do this, you know? And so when I came back with the second motion, the court says it is the same motion, the motion to correct the error is the same motion as the motion to substantiate the order. So it's the same, which is an objection to her order, and objection is denied. So, and this has been going on. We are not getting any further. We're not going anywhere because none of my evidence is being allowed and you're lying. And so when it went to Chicago, the judge evidently probably answered the court with my complaint saying exactly what I just told you. They don't read it, probably. I don't know. If they do read it, then they're corrupt because there's no way you can mistake, repair, or fix the error with an objection to the order. There's no way you can mistake that. So I'm trying to be nice that they just do what I do know they rubber stamp the judge. And I'm sure so the judge probably just wrote that, she's being a pro se litigant that is just not agreeing with her opinion. This has nothing to do with opinion. This is a fact. You see? So, but of course, they rubber stamped it. Now, this was over a year ago, and it's still going on. It's the exact same thing. So, and I can't even get them to dismiss the case for me to have a judge that just might not be prejudiced like the judges we have. And plus the judge that might care about his job. You see, because these judges don't even care about their job. You are lying under the way I understand it, they're supposed to be under oath. You are telling a lie that my son and grandchildren are not on the lease because I have showed you they are. And you are saying, oh, that's just an objection. So anyways, back to embedded law. So, an African American would not need half of the embedded law suffering that my life has experienced. But a single case of a black person being discriminated against would not qualify for the use of embedded law as to grant leniency to American corporations going bankrupt as a common practice of discrimination against blacks. Because, you know, it is going to be bad for them because that's what they do. Yet, holding them accountable for obscene oppression of blacks and to slap them with the over 400 years of suffering as well at a payout of 10 to 100 times the damages worth. My case would require 100 times the value of my case. And the benefits: 1, the black individual will be compensated for extreme suffering. 2, the entire black race will be compensated a fair percentage depending on the amount of the award, 10% to 40%, to be solely for 100% black-owned businesses. Okay, so this is explaining how the money is going to be distributed for the black race. A percentage to black-owned businesses, to the Black Voice, Black Research, Black Health, Black Lobbying in Congress, the Black Diaspora, and the Black community. Okay, so I'm suing for $100 million. So if I get $100 million, the court will say what percentage of my embedded law suffering should be more. So whether it's going to be 20 million, 40 million, 50 million, who knows? But the jurors will decide where that goes. Okay. This will force corporations, all entities, to be more responsible at assuring that their employees do not discriminate against African Americans, thus eliminating embedded law in a small but definite avenue. A win here will assure that training to accept blacks as equals and not less than, and that the privileged mindset of a right to destroy blacks becomes a thing of the past in housing and the workplace. Embedded law, if won, must be kept as a necessity, at least until blacks and whites are equal on all aspects of life. It must not be removed because it looks like blacks may become equal. After all, blacks have lived less than for over 400 years. Blacks have lived less than for over 400 years. And the Constitution says we're supposed to be equal. So we have a long time of making up here, okay? The very least this country can do is to allow benefits to continue until blacks are genuinely equal to whites. Even as I say, until blacks are equal to whites in my psyche, it sounds criminal and sinister. Embedded law demands blacks be less than and utterly destroyed. We must overcome embedded law or live destroyed perpetually. Yeah. When you say whites equal to blacks, or even better yet, try saying white people must be equal to what black people get. White people must be equal to what black people get. See, if you just change these words around, because we always say, well, black people should be equal to whites. You see? Woo-wee! Let's let white people be equal to blacks. More ideas will be incorporated as more people become involved. So you see, with just me making this idea of suffering and the remedy for the suffering, we're not getting the full effect. We need more people involved. And this will change the course of American history and the black experience for the better of us all. Okay, and then I was going to go over some terminology of how to use embedded law. Okay, and again, we really need more people involved into making this really powerful, because what I've put together, I could see this blossoming into something way larger than what I have. But I don't have the numbers. I don't have, you see what I'm saying? The expertise to really put it off. And then I am separated from any help. None. I am not allowed any help. The NAACP won't get involved. The American Civil, the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union won't get involved. They won't return my calls, you know? And I don't know if it's because there's something hampering with my phone, but this is serious enough where you could at least write me a letter. I don't know if something is stopping my letters, but all I know is I have just written everybody, the governor, the attorney general, the state level, the national level, all the way up to President Biden and Trump and O'Biden. I have written all of them. They know that this federal court judge is lying. And not one of them, CNN, Fox, all the news, they know. I wrote everybody. Do you think they write me back? I think an attorney, nope, that was for my son. I think that was for my son's case that the attorney general wrote back. Nobody, they don't even recognize they getting a letter from me. But I kept all of my my United States postals to prove, I can prove that they all got letters from me. Okay, so the different terminologies would be, one way to use embedded law is for when you're saying white privilege use of embedded law. So this is a type of way to use embedded law. It's where one, which is generally a white person, views a black American as a commodity, product of slavery, and or a person to be vilified. See, once you see the reality of what's really creating that inner destroy blacks, then you have you have more of a perception of what we're dealing with. Because mostly, they're just prejudiced. It's just like when a Mexican hates a black person. No, this is not the same thing as a Mexican hating a black person. You see what I'm saying? This is your wealth. This is your privilege. This is your everything. And America is founded on it. So So you got to look at it with blacks. We are the commodity of America. Therefore, it's a right to white privilege, herself, himself, her generations, her race, to never allow black people to be fairly heard or considered, and forever susceptible to receive harsh and unusual treatment, Jim Crow treatment, a 400-year American practice. When seen as a commodity, like a lesser being or your pet, the victimizer benefits currently, right now, and generationally privileged superiority over the oppressed race and financial gains. So you don't see why the judge is willing to lose her job when you guys help her get exposed. This case is Sandra Black versus Naomi Friedrichsen. And what they did is they made it so you can't, this is a public case, but you cannot publicly access it because of all of the criminal that's going on with the judge. You cannot publicly access it, but I know a back door. I don't know if they're going to fix it, but I'm going to tell you. Okay, so the court case number is 1:19-CV-00307-TLS. Okay, the back door, take off the TLS because that's our case directly. And if you just leave 307, then it goes into all the federal cases for, I guess, housing discrimination or whatever. Anyways, that's how I got in through the back door, because you can't access my case anymore. I always could before I did a press release. And when I did a press release to make it public what was going on, they went and shut it down so that you couldn't get in. But if you go in and leave it at the 307 at the end, don't put the TLS, then it will open up a list of about, what I saw was like about 15 maybe court cases, and you go and look for Black versus Friedrichsen. Sandra Black versus Naomi Friedrichsen et al. A-L. When you look up that, it comes up. That's the back way through. Okay. So that's one embedded law term definition. The next embedded law term is a noun, okay? And it's still embedded law. And what that is an American conscious or unconscious ruling or devouring state of mind, okay? It's just, this is the way you perceive blacks, okay? And so this is anybody, including blacks themselves. And this is just an American thing. You know, black just ain't right. If you go to their businesses, you're going to lose. You know, their hair is no good. Everything about black, you get back. Okay? This is embedded law with the noun. And all Americans are infected with embedded law in varying degrees, from 100% infection to negligible infection. Like blacks who see straight hair as good hair. I don't know why I said that's negligible, because that's not negligible. But what I think my point was is that you don't make no money off of it. So no American is immune. There is no benefit required. Simply the thought of mind. Simply, this is just the way it's always been. Third embedded law is a verb, and that's where it's synonymous with the white privilege, okay? And it's the viewpoint or the benefit or the lack of the benefit, which is why you vilify blacks. Another one is the adjective, which is to describe the acts. And then embedded law, which I'm using in court, for special damages. So this is where the whole term was coined, and then I realized that it's a real good one or two words to use for racism, because with racism, they really don't use the real definition of racism. And that's the reason why they say, oh, everybody's racist. No, because black people don't have the power to be racist. But once you say racism is just prejudice, then yes, everybody is racism. Everybody does use racism. But racism is not just prejudice. Racism is prejudice with the power to eliminate, the power to destroy, the power to say, hey, so if I'm able to be racist against whites, I have the power to say, whites will not have housing. Whites will not get these loans. Whites will not rule Washington, D.C. Whites will not have the better jobs and the higher paying money. That would make me racist against whites. I don't have that power. But whites have that power to do that to black people. So that's the reason why I'm saying that we needed to coin this embedded law, because you're not really allowed to talk about the fact that we don't have the power to take from white people. But white people, just like this white judge, has the power to take. And she has the power to even go all the way to Chicago and continue it. And it's at that, because it's continuing, it's brought up to the court again a year later that, hey, this is still continuing, that they're discriminating against me. So maybe I might get my dismissal and hopefully get a judge. And because I'm looking at, I feel it. I know somewhere there's going to be a white judge who is going to say, this is ridiculous that you are denying a person's voice to be heard with a lie, and an easily proved lie. There's no way to escape it, that you are lying. Okay? So we talked about the adverb, and we talked about the special damages. That's number 5. Number 6 is also like the Karens. That's embedded law. And then that's basically it. And you have to qualify, of course, for embedded law. So to sum everything up, you guys, we've got some serious discussion going on in federal court. And I'm supposed to get my chance to be fully heard. I should have gotten a court-appointed attorney because I have one of the lowest incomes in America. I have the highest evidence in this case. So I am the most victimized. Being victimized again by the court. Embedded law. This judge ordered me into court, telling me that I must appear. You are ordered to appear in person. The defendants, they may appear in person or by phone, which of course they appeared by phone because you lose money and time when we are both from out of town and I have to drive and I have to spend my money and my time to appear. And I finally figured out why she did that, because at first I was just thinking it was just to show me my place. That because I had asked her to please try to treat me equal. I know it's difficult, but try to treat me equal. Well, you put it in writing that Sandra Black, you appear in person. You lose your money. You lose your time. And they may appear either way they want. They have the choice. Okay? But the reason why, after I thought about all the stuff she did, because she harassed me big time. I'm not going to spend the whole court time, this whole video's time explaining all that she did. But I'm going to tell you this part. I had asked for a special consideration for my deposition to only be maximum 3 hours due to my disability, because I have a severe anxiety. So the first time, the defendant's attorney accepted it. And the second time, and I never saw that coming, because, why would you not recognize you already said it the first time that you accepted it? And this time, and I mean, she went way over the 3 hours, okay? She could have stopped at 2 hours. She could have had 2 hours, 2 hours, and 2 hours if she really cared about my disability. But they don't. And so when I mentioned to the judge how she had forced me into a breakdown by continuously hammering, well, I'm going to call the judge. You're going to, you have to stay here. You have no choice. She kept pushing it on me. You have no choice. And it was bad, y'all. And it's embarrassing. And I told this to the judge. Why don't you get a video? She has a video of what she did to me. Well, if you claim your health reasons a second time, you look like you don't want to cooperate with the court. That's what she told me. You look like you, in other words, she was saying that I was being a lazy N-word. That's what she was pretty much saying. So anyways, you guys, I've read all of this, and I will bring you more content. There is so much more that you guys just don't know. And also, more than just the court, since this is going to go up on YouTube because it's so long, I might take a snippet out. But when it goes up on YouTube, and the stuff, my content that I put up on YouTube is so much more than the division between blacks and whites. That's the reason why my channel is called Global Elite Takedown. Because I'm about how do we all do better? And the number one thing is to first find the root. Just like with racism, I went to the root, embedded law. The root of all people suffering is the global elite, who have divided us against each other and who's making us fight, black against white, male against female, Christian against Muslim. You see? Even the sexes. And I promise you guys, if you was to really look at the situation that's going on with blacks and target everything, poverty, discrimination, the imprisonment, if you targeted everything that hurts blacks and say we're going to knock these things out, we all win by default. Because what is happening to white suffering is that you, white people, poor white people that don't know how to manipulate the system so that you can get what the system is allowing you to have. Because I know white people. I have a good friend, a white friend, very much in poverty. She's with her husband. She's got 4 children. Extreme poverty to where, they hardly can feed themselves. Literally it's just really, really bad. But this is because they don't know how to get their benefits. They don't know how to do what they need to do in order to survive. And it's just so unfair that this was set up for black people. But these white people are suffering worse than me because they don't know how to use the system for what it was supposed to be, helping people who are poor. So when you're poor and you don't know how to go and get your Section 8, They have no business paying rent. You're poor. You don't have any money. Go get your Section 8. Get your housing. They don't have, oh, it's so bad. They don't have anything. And so, I hate even thinking about what they're going through. I'm just explaining to you guys that when you see white people suffering, your taxes, all of these things that you say, well, why do we care about your black suffering? White people are suffering too. You're suffering because you're living black. You are no more than a jigger. I promise you. So stop talking about white people are suffering too and look at what is created. There was no policing until after slavery where we were going to keep black people enslaved. White people are just now part of the money-making machine. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You know? So what we have to do is wake up to what is really going on. What is the root cause? There is no such thing as anything but the human race. Black people. That's the only thing that exists. Well, how's white people black? The same way Michael Jackson is black. You're just ancient white. And Michael Jackson, we saw him before he turned white. Okay? But we all know life began in Africa. And of course, there are some supremacists that want to change that around. But scientifically, it is accepted. The mother of us all is a black woman named Eve. The mitochondria of every race proves we're all black. Just because you turned white a few hundred years to thousands and thousands of years, depending on if you go with the pink white or the olive white, whether you go with the English like that or the Romanian or Hungarian, the olive white, who were ancient blacks that turned white through the Caucasus Mountains, or the ones that turned white, pink white, through the manipulation. I'm going to go deep on y'all. Go look up Anunnaki. When the Anunnakis wanted us to kill each other off. So they created that race of people for us to fight against each other. And that's the way we've been fighting ever since. That's the reason why it's in the Bible. Do not mix the races. Okay? The first racist is black people. Ooh, black people gonna be mad at me. I don't give a shit. I don't give a care. The first racist on earth is black people. Black people had the power. Black people created civilization. I'm just telling you the truth. Okay? And the Anunnakis came in and put some kind of biological warfare that made people not capable of creating melanin in their body. That's all that is. And then what did you have? Warren. Okay? If you don't believe me, look up Job 30:30. Job chapter 30. Read the whole chapter. It will tell you Job, a black man. And the way you know he's black, you keep reading, you'll find out he's tribal. Who are the tribal people today? Africa is a tribal people. Who are the people in the cave? And it talks about the white people. And he says that he would have disdained the flock of his dogs to sit and eat with white people. And those white people that he's talking about were in caves. Just read it. I'm just telling what happened and why. Because it's not about white and black. It's about understanding that we all want to be loved. And if we could come to this understanding that money is not the power. Money is not the power. Oh, you get the money, you got the power. No, the power is the people. The people are powerless because they've given their power away. If you don't think that the people are not the power, stop working. Don't go to the fields to have agricultural food, to have clothing, to have any produce. Just stop and see what'll happen. The power, real power, is in the people. And that's the reason why the global elite made you guys, all of us, to separate and fight amongst ourselves while they keep everything coming to just them. And we have nothing. That being said, everybody, try to drop a little bit of knowledge out there. And peace. Deuces.